Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I am Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a full quorum with all council members present. It is 7:31 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is our invocation, which will be handled by Chaplain Alexander this evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I pray that all is well with each and every one of you tonight. May we pray, please. Father, we come together tonight in your name. We come tonight praying for our city, the city of College Park, our state of Georgia, and continue praying for this nation as a whole. I come tonight praying, Father, once again for unity and wisdom to be upon this governing body and all its employees and its citizens. I pray tonight, Father, as always, as I do for our law enforcement officers, our firefighters, and all the city personnel as they protect and work in this city and they return home each day from their labor. I pray, Father, that as our city leaders goes through tonight's agenda, that wisdom, compassion, and understanding will be upon each of them as they make the right decision concerning this city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 The next item on the agenda, additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda. Are there any this evening?
No, Mayor.
I'm hearing none. All right, we'll move on to item 3A, which is approval of the regular session minutes from October 4th.
I move to approve as presented.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 3B, approval of the workshop minutes from October 4th.
I move to approve that one as well.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous as well. We do not have any proclamations, resolutions, plaques, or announcements this evening. We're moving on to remarks of citizens. Ms. Moore?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 1 second, please. Okay, I have a number of people to sign in to speak virtually. Paul Lovelace, Edward Pinnock, Joe Stahl, Lex High. So I'm going to ask those individuals to unmute themselves. And Paul Lovelace, if you're there, you can speak first.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. First of all, thank you so very much. My name is Paul Lovelace, and I am a Delta Airline retiree, and I'm a lung cancer survivor. I have one lung. Let me first of all start by saying this, that we are against the City of College Park voting to provide an okay for the next era battery storage facility, not just because we don't want it in our neighborhood, but because we don't want it in our neighborhood for reasons.
Mayor, may I interrupt? This is an item on the agenda for public hearing.
Yes, Ms. Moore, you are correct. Mr. Lovelace, we will be opening it up for comments for the public hearing on this particular item.
Okay.
And so we can give you an opportunity to speak at that time.
Okay. Okay, well then I'll wait until then. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next is Edward Pinnock.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Well, I'm speaking on the same issue that Lovelace was speaking on.
If you wouldn't mind, we do have a public hearing slated for that particular issue, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak at that time.
Tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, next is Joe Stahl. Is he there?
Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hi. I'm speaking on the same issue about Next Era.
Okay. So
Okay.
we will make sure that you get an opportunity to speak during the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next, I have Lex High.
I'm also speaking about the Next Era issue as well. So.
All right.
Okay, I have no others that signed in to speak during citizen remarks, but I do have several individuals that signed in to speak about the battery storage item. So those individuals will need to speak during that public hearing and not this portion of the agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem Willis from the city of South Fulton, are your comments in regard to the facility as well, the proposed facility?
Yes, my comments are regarding the facility, so
okay.
I'll wait.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, I have no others.
Okay, so we have the opportunity. Councilman Gay, are you?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, ma'am. I really didn't. I was just going to ask you, is it towards the end of the agenda since we have so many guests?
The public hearing?
Yes.
No, it should be coming up pretty quickly.
Okay.
So at this time, if you wish to speak on an issue for 1 minute, you have the opportunity to do so and log in. As our city clerk has expressed, we have a public hearing coming up on the rezoning of Zero Welcome All Road from Business Park to M1 Light Industrial. So if you wish to speak on that particular issue, we ask that you wait until the public hearing. But if you wish to speak on any other issue, you may do so right now. You have 1 minute. Ms. Moore, can you let folks know how they would go about doing that?
Yes, ma'am. You would go to www.collegeparkga.com. In the top green strip at the top of the website, you're going to click on government and then scroll down to council meetings. Once you're in the middle of the page, you're going to click on the link for tonight's meeting. Once you click that link, please raise your hand to be acknowledged. And once you're acknowledged, you will be able to leave your 1 minute comment.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Mm-hmm. And if you would, we will both look out, see if there's anyone who wishes to speak on any issue. If anyone has raised their hand, we'll give them a few more moments. Ms. Moore, are you seeing anyone?
No hands raised.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move forward to item 6A. And we usually take 6A and 6B together. Discussion and update on the top 10 delinquent property taxpayers and the top 10 delinquent utility customer accounts. Are there any questions for Ms. Flord Bradley on either of these items?
I have none.
All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6C, which is a College Park Utility Assistance Grant Program Update. I feel like I need to speak a little slower this evening. I keep on tripping on my words. So Ms. Flord Bradley, it looks like there has been significant movement in the movement of assistance to applicants.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor and Council. Yes, to date, we have awarded about over 512,000 in grant funds, utility assistance. And right now we are not taking any more applications. We're still reviewing applications that were previously submitted. To date, we have about 77,000 in administrative costs that is not included in the total grant award is about 600,000. So right now we are no longer taking in applications as we're still going through the current applications we have, and we were pretty confident that those funds would be used. So for those that are still seeking assistance, they can go through the Fulton County. They can go through Fulton County or Clayton County. They do still have funds available. The links are located on our website at www.collegeparkga.com.
I believe the Department of Community Affairs is also a resource. Is that correct?
Is that through Fulton County or the state?
The state.
But I believe they have to go through Fulton County. I'm not really sure at this time. I believe right now they have to go through Fulton and Clayton County for those utility assistance. Any utility or rental assistance, they have to go directly to the county.
All right. I thought that had been lifted, but let's circle back around and
I'll find out.
Okay. Appreciate that. Any other questions for Ms. Floyd Bradley?
No, I congratulations. I think I'm really happy to see that we're not leaving any money on the table. There's a lot of issues across the country where the money for some of these things that's been appropriated has not been given out. And I think you guys have done a great job now of closing the gap. I was worried for a while, as you know, and I'm very, very pleased with what you've done. Thank you.
And you've helped a lot of people.
Absolutely. We are grateful for your efforts. All right. Item 6D is consideration of an action on a request for approval to award multi-year contracts for annual services rendered to the city. I believe this is Mr. Moody's.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Excuse me. So just wanted to have discussion about just having something in writing to update the purchasing policies for multi-year contracts for a lot of the annual services that are provided to the city in order to have a better cost savings in an overall effort as we're trying to watch every penny and make sure we're getting the best for what we're going out doing solicitations on. That includes the landfill services, your fleet management services with garage, several other contracts that we do on an annual basis. Just wanted to have discussion to secure multi-year, if possible, moving forward. That's what I have.
Any questions for Mr. Moody?
Is it on a case-by-case basis or all multi-year contracts?
I'm looking at the annual services that we solicit for to better secure jobs for those contractors. Normally, we solicit for specific contracts to do bidding, but we do have annual contracts that come up for renewal that we do have covered on an annual auto renew, but just trying to secure a more steady stream with them for better cost.
I think it's a good idea as long as we look at each one, on an individual basis and don't lump about 4 or 5 together and say we're going to look at all of these for a 3-year contract. I think we need to look at each one separately as it comes up. And if we can save money by going to a 3-year contract, I think we ought to consider it. It's my opinion.
Agree.
Councilman Allen, after speaking with the city attorney, they would be 1-year contracts with the auto renewal, and they would still have the 30-day out.
Yes, 30-day out, we're fine. That's good.
Now, historically, I have felt that we should move where possible to a multi-year contract, both for economical reasons, stability reasons. If we have a good supplier who we're working well with, I think it's a good idea. I've been concerned that we not have the ability to get out of the contract if we find that we've had that the partnership isn't the way we thought it would be. And I think that the 30-day out at the renewal time, and I think even in general, if we can, we should have a 30-day out for convenience, but with the understanding that we really intend it to be a multi-year contract and we intend to have it auto-renew. And as long as the partnership is doing well, there's no reason of putting everyone through the expense and churn and focus. We only have so much energy that we can put on things. And to have to go through and rebid a bunch of contracts and relook at them when it's not necessary just takes away our energy from some of the other important issues that we face today. So I'm all in favor of doing this with those provisions. And I agree, we should look at each one individually. We just shouldn't carte blanche say, well, everything's going to be automatic 3 years or whatever.
So I believe we need an amendment to the purchasing policy to make this.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you. But in the current policy, we sort of addressed that on page 22. So I don't know if we have to do an amendment to that, but I will get with Winston and someone from the city attorney's office to make sure we have the correct verbiage on that page. We did state that while the city of College Park only considers 1-year contracts for service, the city reserves the right to auto-renew contracts when it's in the best interest of the city.
Okay. So if you can just circle back and let us know if we need to do anything else, we'll go from there.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Moody.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Item 7A is a public hearing to adopt the City of College Park 2021 Comprehensive Plan Update. And Ms. Washington?
Yes, hi everyone. So this is the Comprehensive Plan 2021 update that we've been talking about for, man, feels like forever now. But this is it. It's the final version is in the plan. The only changes from the plan you saw previously is we did switch out some pictures to have specifically some pictures from Ward 4 in there. But those are the only changes. And yes, let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Washington?
Nope.
All right. All right. At this time, I'll go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Ms. Moore, can you let people know what they need to do to comment about the public hearing for the 2021 Comprehensive Plan Update?
Yes, ma'am. Go to www.collegeparkga.com. In the top green strip at the top of the website, click on government and then go down to council meetings. Scroll to the middle of the page to locate the link for tonight's meeting. Click on the link. Once you're in the Zoom meeting, raise your hand. Once you are acknowledged, you will be able to leave your comment regarding this particular item.
Thank you very much. And again, this is strictly in relation to the comprehensive plan, the 2021 comprehensive plan. This is not in relation to the rezoning issue we will be discussing in a few moments. So I see one hand raised already. I'll declare the public hearing open. John Crosby has his hand up. Mr. Crosby, just go ahead and unmute. Oh, he has.
Very good.
My apologies. That was accidental.
But that was an accidental hand raise?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Does anyone else wish to speak on the comprehensive plan? All right. Ms. Washington, there was one, there were two, I went through it one more time, and on page 31 of the comprehensive plan, it lists our principal employers.
Yes.
What packet page is that, Mayor?
It is packet page 156. And somehow Woodward has dropped off for 2020. And I don't know why, because I'm sure that they are one of our top employers still.
Yeah, you know what? I'm also surprised they're not.
It's got 880 employees.
Right, in 2011. But then if you look at 2020, they're not listed at all.
It seems unlikely that they would have dropped below 312, which is the Southern Crescent
right.
BHS. So
yeah, I am not sure that that data is from ARC, so I can double check with them and see if they have an explanation for that.
Okay, I just taking another look at it, and I just wanted to bring that.
I believe that should be in there as well.
I'm sorry?
I said I believe it should be in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes no sense. They can't have reduced their size by over 2/3.
I don't think,
or half.
And there was one other thing that I picked up on that really just needed to be addressed. Packet page 157. It is page 32. That last paragraph down there refers to a figure Y. There is no figure Y. There's numbered figures, but there aren't lettered figures. So I think it's figure 14.
Yes, I think it is also supposed to be figure 14. Okay, I will definitely have that change made. And I will contact ARC about an explanation for
with regard to the fundamental data with Woodward. If that is to be changed, this doesn't have to go back through approval to DCA, does it?
I'll confirm with the ARC, but I do not believe so.
Well, just to simplify things, can we just make a motion to say that the two items the mayor has found should be, obviously they should be changed, and it is approved with those changes as long as DCA doesn't require that we go back and what have you, rather than having to bring this up on the agenda again.
I do have a question for Ms. Washington after we make that change.
Hold on one second.
Okay, well, whatever. Okay.
Well, let's Ms. Washington, go ahead, if you wouldn't mind answering Councilman Clay's question, then Councilman Gay will get to your comment.
Yes, I think that's appropriate that we say with updated employee information from Woodward and the change on page 32 from figure Y to figure 14.
Okay. All right, Councilman Gay.
Yes, ma'am. Package page 160 under Woodward Academy. The first bulletin says Woodward generated 40.51 million in economic output. But I wanted to clarify something. A couple years ago, I did a study. This economic input has nothing to do with property tax, correct? Because Woodward is non-exempt. They don't pay property tax. So they're not a large economic in that respect. Is that correct? Am I right in thinking that?
That is correct. This information is from a study that Woodward did for their economic impact to College Park and the surrounding area.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue, our 2021 comprehensive plan? Hearing no one, seeing no one, I am declaring the public hearing closed at this time. Is there a motion?
Okay, I will make the motion I was implying, which is that we approve the comprehensive plan with the changes that were indicated, and it's good to go unless DCA comes back and says we can't make those changes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Allen.
And Shabela, please clean up my wording. Good to go is probably not a good phrase to use in the official minutes.
Got it.
All right. Any comments, any questions from the body? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 7B is a request to set a public hearing for review of the final development plan for 6 West Residential. Ms. Washington, I believe this is you again.
Yes, it is. So this is part of the plan development zoning that we approved for 6 West back in July 2020. Every property that is zoned PD for plan development is required to submit a final development plan for public hearing and approval before council. So that is what this item is. They did submit a bunch of material to support this. To be clear, I did get a question from Councilman Clay about the Brady Center and it's being counted in the open space for this project. They're required to provide 20% open space in the project. They're providing 35%-ish about. So they will meet the open space requirements without the Brady Center. If it's not the count, and the city will still maintain the Brady Center and maintain ownership of the Brady Center during this development.
Okay, so yeah, I was a little unclear. I got your answers. So we're saying they meet the requirement without the Brady Center in there at all, and it's a bonus, so to speak. I mean, the Brady Center is ideal for that location. So, okay.
And you answered all of my questions, but we're just setting a public hearing right now.
We're just setting the public hearing right now.
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Washington? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move to set the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Item 7C is a public hearing to consider rezoning of Zero Welcome All Road from BP Business Park to M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. Ms. Washington?
All right, so I know we have people that want to speak on this today, so I'll make it short. I think everybody's pretty informed. The only thing that has changed since our last public hearing is we do have a multitude of conditions that we are requesting for this project. They are on, I was going to have my packet page ready. Sorry, I do not. Got to get all the way through the comprehensive plan.
It's right at the end, Nikki.
All right.
That's round.
I'm loading through. But the applicant is here to answer any questions and speak on this as well. Harold Buckley is going to be representing the applicant. James, if you can move him over, if you haven't already, and allow him to speak.
Nikki, the conditions begin on packet page 343.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Those conditions begin on packet page 343. And if there's any questions about those, we can discuss that as well. I know there was a question on the fire safety, Councilman Clay. I did talk to Moore and our fire marshal, Damon Jones, about that. And that is going to be the state requirement for this. And given it might change and be updated over time, they were saying there's not really a reason to add it into these zoning conditions. We want to keep up to date with those state requirements as they come out. And it is from the requirements that were set by New York and the National Fire Protection Agency.
Right. So NFPA 855 is automatically included in there under the state requirements.
Correct. That's what they're using.
And if the number changes, that we've already included all the forthcoming state requirements in there. So we're well covered there. Okay, thank you.
Of course. Mayor, if you do want to have the presentation from the applicant, they are.
Yes, ma'am. That'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name is Harold Buckley, 2849 Paces Ferry Road in Atlanta, and I'm here before you this evening on behalf of Next Era. This is the third time this application has come before this body. At the first meeting, we had a public hearing, and there were a number of questions and concerns that were raised in that meeting. So the mayor and council voted to defer the application to get more information from us about our project and about the development itself. So I'm going to focus my remarks this evening on the new information and progress that has taken place since then. The five broad areas of comment during our public hearing and in the questions we received afterwards were in the areas of the potential for other industrial development on the site other than our project, if this project did not go forward, even if the rezoning was approved. Also, there were questions about the project's technical details and fire safety. The third area of discussion was centered on sound and vibration issues. We had a couple of topics relating to the security of the site and the facility. And then finally, there were comments about proximity, the proximity of our development to nearby residential homes. On that first area, the potential for other industrial development, as was read into the record, this property is currently zoned business park. And the only additional use that would be added to our permitted business park uses, if this application is approved as recommended, would be the proposed battery facility that we have before you this evening. Other than that, there would be no approved industrial uses, and everything else that could be done with the property would be limited to business park. The other thing that we agreed to was to submit and fund a decommissioning plan, because there was a question about what would happen to the property if the facility were to close. And that decommissioning plan, which would be bond funded, would take care of that, and that would be something that we would need to submit to the city per the recommended conditions. As you might expect, the topic of fire safety and technical detail was the most intense area of conversation. After the first meeting, we did provide the City of College Park with a number of technical materials from our engineers, which we understand were reviewed and vetted by the city's technical engineers. So we did provide that information. For example, we provided a vibration report by American Fire Technologies, and we also provided a sound study. We agreed to provide the College Park and South Fulton Fire Departments with annual supplemental fire training relative to our facility at our expense. There was some discussion about the safety of residents at the dead end of Delano Road and what would happen in the event of a fire emergency. We have agreed in the zoning conditions to provide either a 50-foot buffer along Delano, meaning that our equipment would have to be at least 50 feet away from the roadway, or a fire-rated wall, and that the choice of which of those would be the most appropriate would be resolved during permitting while our engineers work with the city's engineers. And we also agreed to provide the city with an emergency traffic routing plan that would be implemented in the event of an on-site fire emergency. We agreed to provide local fire code officials, both South Fulton and College Park, with a very detailed annual emergency operations plan. And we also agreed to some safety improvements on the site, such as clearly displayed voltage warnings, plus emergency disconnect and shutoff information that would be on the site in the form of a signage. And that signage would also include a 24-hour emergency contact with a reach back phone number, and that is reflected in the proposed conditions as well. We agreed to include in our storage facilities a hazardous exhaust system to treat air before it is released during an emergency event. And we've also agreed to incorporate a thermal management system into our battery storage facility to maintain proper battery module temperature. One additional thing that we have agreed to is to include specialized smoke detection, radiant fire detection, and fire suppression systems in our facilities. Those are reflected in the proposed conditions as well. And then finally, under the subject heading of fire safety, we have voluntarily offered to provide College Park with evidence that we took reasonable measures to ensure that the South Fulton Fire Department has the capacity and ability to respond to a fire emergency on our property. Now, that's what the proposed condition says. What we are voluntarily proposing is to meet that zoning condition by providing the South Fulton Fire Department with $150,000 in funding to enhance that fire department's fire capabilities, since the nearest fire station to our property is a South Fulton fire station. Moving on to the third subject area, sound and vibration. As I mentioned, we did present reports to the city for review by the city's engineer consultants. But in addition to that, we agreed to comply with College Park's noise ordinance relative to noise at residential property lines, regardless of whether those residences were in College Park or South Fulton, just to eliminate any question about the applicability of the College Park noise ordinance to property outside the city limits. We have voluntarily agreed to subject ourselves to that, just to make that 100% clear. And we also have agreed to very specific noise restrictions on our sites that are captured in the proposed zoning conditions to avoid negative impacts on nearby residential neighbors. In the area of physical security, we have agreed to secure the site with security fencing with emergency information posted at all gates into the property, and that's along the lines of the signage that I described to you just a moment ago. And we have also agreed to provide College Park with an extensive array of cybersecurity information prior to the commencement of our operations. And then finally, in the fifth broad area of conversation relative to potential impacts due to proximity to residential neighbors, we have agreed that our operation will not be allowed to incorporate heavy trucks and heavy truck traffic, with the sole exceptions being during the initial construction, when obviously we would have to have construction trucks come in, and also during periods where we have to replace our equipment, because sometimes maintenance and repair activities do require the replacement of our equipment on the site. We have agreed to a minimum separation of 115 feet between our battery equipment and the nearest residential home structure. And we have agreed to a wooded buffer around the entire property to screen it from view from off-site. And then the last topic that I wanted to bring to the body's attention is that we have agreed to very specific on-site lighting requirements, outdoor lighting requirements, that would prevent glare from our development from being directed onto neighboring properties. And we believe that with all of this progress that we've made since the last time we presented to this body, that ensures that our development will be a good neighbor to the folks who are already in the area. And we would ask for your support and your approval of our zoning application. And at this point, I will rest my presentation and take any questions if there are any.
Are there questions for Mr. Buckley?
If at this time, are you entertaining then council questions, Mayor?
If there are some for Mr. Buckley, that's absolutely fine at this juncture.
I guess the one question I would ask, I think you're aware of the condition attachment, and you covered it at a high level. I think you've done a good job of covering the various things. There were, but you have seen the 6 pages of conditions. Is that correct?
We have, and we had some minor comments on it which were incorporated. So we support the conditions that have been proposed for our project.
Okay. And just for, I guess, clarification for all that are participating, one of the requirements is that basically, we are not looking to have any fires in the facility. The idea is to limit any kind of thermal runaway or conditions where a cell overloads and starts generating heat, that be limited to that particular module that incorporates the cell and not be allowed to spread to any other cells and not escape the cell in the form of fire or explosion. And I think that's probably clearly stated in the conditions, but I just want to make sure that that is the way you understand it.
It is, council member.
Okay.
It is clearly stated. How is it achieved?
To answer that question, I think Paul Hayes has joined us as a panelist, and he is our fire safety expert. So I would ask that he be given the floor. And Paul, would you answer that question, please?
Yes, good evening. This is Paul Hayes with American Fire Technology, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak. The driving factor between that and how we represent it is NFPA 855 has some requirements for large-scale fire testing. That is a UL standard 9540A, and what we do is we put the batteries into distress for thermal runaway and then look at how they react, both from a gas standpoint, from a fire standpoint, and from an explosion standpoint. But we also implement safety measures that we test under that condition to limit the propagation and failure of those cells from proceeding. So there would be this test would be provided. It would be vetted by a fire protection engineer as well. It is basically data. And then we would give you a report on what that 9540A report stated.
I think the thing I would like to add, Paul, is that regardless of the standard, the enforcement mechanism, and this addresses what the mayor is talking about, I think. If we were to have a fire that escaped the containment of the battery module, I'm not talking about the container now, I'm talking about the module itself that contains this individual cell or several cells connected together, that would be grounds for shutting down the facility until the cause of that had been found and until all the 380 containers, or however many there are, I think that's what I counted if I remember rightly, until they had all been corrected to accommodate that. And I would maintain that I think that NextEra probably has as much, if not considerably more, concern about the economic impact of shutting down that entire facility if that were to occur. So my argument would be that enforcement is, even if they didn't follow the standard, or if the standard isn't adequate, that the penalty for that is so significant that it would just not make good sense to not make sure in the design that that was taken care of. And if it weren't, it would still be covered.
So that is what is written into the agreement. And while I'm not the business end of this, my purpose for being on this project is to make sure that those safety measures are implemented and to give them those best practices. So while we review it, we look at it, we define what those failures are, and ultimately we put multiple levels of mitigation in place, starting with the BMS across that board. And then ultimately, if there is some failure, absolutely, we want to make sure we look at reasons. That's why we write the code.
And I would argue that the protection at an individual cell or small group of cell level is just the first line of defense. But I think it's the most important line, because things can fail. This is a complex arrangement, and we need to make sure at the elemental level that things are contained. And that's why then you say, well, suppose it goes wrong. Well, what we have required is that it be fixed in all. But on top of that, even if an individual cell is to fail, that's what you have the backup systems for, that include things that are specified under 855 and other standards, that you have fire suppression equipment in those containers, not modules now, but the shipping containers that contain these, that would suppress anything. And that's why you also have the exhaust system that you committed to earlier in the presentation to cleanse the gas out of what is released into the atmosphere.
And I would agree with you, Councilman. That's why we look at multiple levels of mitigation. We don't assume one is adequate, and it actually starts with the BMS to shut the system down on any abnormal conditions. Then we proceed to gas detection, to suppression, to venting. So there are 5 or 6 levels that we look at to make sure that we've got various failure modes addressed. And that'll be part of what will be submitted to the fire department and addressed as part of the permit application, ultimately, to go through what it looks like and how we're mitigating those hazards.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilman Gay.
I just had a sustainability question. How are these batteries purchased with lithium, or how available is lithium to run a plant this size? Is there a supply? Is there a supply for the lithium that you'll need?
Absolutely, but if you would, Matt, I think are probably
this
a
is
better.
Harold Buckley. I was going to suggest that Matt Towery was the proper person to answer that question, and he is with me here, so I'm going to pass the speakerphone to him so that he can answer it.
You wouldn't mind repeating the question? This is Matt here.
I was just asking. I don't know how the batteries come if they're already prepared, but my question is, how sustainable is getting lithium to run this size organization?
So I would generally say the supply is there, and there, I think as we mentioned before too, battery chemistries can change over the years, where they could be looking to source, other materials, sodium, nickel, chlorine is another chemistry out there that's, years away in R&D and development, but generally speaking, lithium is quite abundant right now.
Okay.
With various suppliers.
Just to piggyback on that comment, I think we've tried to include in our requirements more generic statements that even if the battery technology changes, that the requirements still hold, that you don't have a fire, that you don't have poisonous gas escape, you don't have any of those issues.
Agreed.
Any other questions for Mr. Buckley?
No, Madam Mayor.
No, for you, not.
Oh, I thought you were asking if I had a question. I'm sorry.
No. Okay, hearing none. At this time, I'll go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Ms. Moore, can you let people know how they can share their willingness to speak?
Yes, ma'am. They can go to www.collegeparkga.com. In the top green strip at the top of the web page, you're going to click on government and then scroll down to council meetings. Once you're on the council meetings landing page, you're going to scroll to the middle of the page to locate the link for tonight's meeting. Click on the link. Once you're in the meeting, raise your hand to be acknowledged. Once you are acknowledged, you can leave your comment.
Thank you very much. Looks like we have Mayor Pro Tem Helen Willis.
Yes, thank you for recognizing me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am Councilwoman Helen Zenobia. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay. I am Councilwoman Helen Zenobia Willis of District 3. I represent the area, and I'm currently serving as the 2021 Mayor Pro Tem in the great city of South Fulton. And I am to add my voice to the chorus of voices opposing the energy storage project. While there is a litany of concerns, I will attempt here to lay out the salient issues that constituents have framed around this matter. The Delano area constituency has enjoyed a rich, multi-generational legacy of agriculture and farming that it wishes to be reflected in the future land use and revitalization plans. This area teems with opportunity for growth. Residents express an eagerness for both preservation and progression, a skyline reflecting the beauty of the past, with its endless forests, expansive farmland, meandering creeks, and the promise of the future, which includes mixed use, live, work, and play centers. There are a latent concerns about the facility's proximity to residential areas and worship center, and the potential long-term effective that could have on a property value of residents in this area. Communities such as Asthma Valley in New York, South Bronx, or the ongoing water crisis in rural Loudness County in Alabama inform our vigilance around the environmental implications that could arise from a project of this nature. There is simply not enough data that would ally the legitimate fear and suspicion that Delano area residents have. It should also be noted that there is strong sentiment among residents of the community that that a neighboring sister city, College Park, prioritized $60 million in potential additional tax revenue over the public health effect that energy storage project could have on thousands of residents, not only in the Delano area, but we have residents and we have people who come from outside of the community to attend Siloam Church. I have been entrusted to advocate for this community and stand in solidarity with them in opposition to the energy storage project. Please reconsider this matter that is before you on this agenda today. Thank you so much for hearing my concerns, and you all have a great evening.
Thank you so much. The next person I see, Ms. Audrey Wilson. think Ms. Wilson may be having some audio issues because I do not see that there's any recognition of a microphone or anything next to her name. Ms. Wilson, you're mute. Okay, you said you're muted. Okay, can we unmute? There we go. All right,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Shalom Alaikum, Mayor, Council, and my awesome neighbors of College Park and the beautiful, magnificent city of South Fulton. I am Audrey Wilson, and I reside at 2024 Simmons Avenue here in the beautiful city of College Park. I am standing in solidarity tonight with the neighbors of our sister city and ask you, Mayor and Council, to not approve this facility. What concerns me is what we have not heard in any of their offerings of coming before Mayor and Council over the past few months. We have not heard what made that area ideal, where their other facilities around the country are not in or near residential areas. We have not heard what happens when a community is exposed to that. And it's almost like post-traumatic stress syndrome. And psychologists and doctors call it allostatic load, which happens when the cumulative burden of chronic stress and life events happen to a population. When their environmental challenges exceed their ability to cope, then allostatic overload happens. The stress that would be on my neighbors would impact their health, which would impact their quality of life, which would impact their value that they have and that they bring to this community, to their city, to our region. And so, as I said, I stand in solidarity with them and ask you humbly to not approve this facility. I believe we can do it. Why? Because we are humans. We are neighbors. We are College Park. Thank you. Stay blessed and peace always.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Edward Pinnock. Mr. Pinnock, the floor is yours. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here. I had a written statement I was going to read, but after hearing the presentation, the initial presentation from Nexera and others, what I was going to say is really unimportant. I was hoping that the conditions and requirements and all would allay my fears. As Sam Cooke say, ease my troubling mind. But that didn't happen. In fact, it made me even more scared. I'm so scared now, I'm nervous after listening to that presentation. I mean, any facility that requires that much oversight, that much training, technical training, in a facility that has 6 pages or more of requirements for a facility that we know can release toxin. We had a lot of ifs, can fail, might fail, which means that it really will fail at some point, possibly. Do we want to take a chance on that? Even if it's a 1 in a million chance, it's too much for a community. Why does it have to be in the middle of a community? Why does it have to be in South Fulton? There are places in North Fulton. Take it up there. Too much is coming to this neighborhood, to this area, that is not neighborhood friendly. I don't care how much data you use. I don't care how many experts you bring on board. Nobody can say that a battery storage facility is neighborhood friendly, because it's not. Even if it doesn't blow up, it destroys the neighborhood. It destroys the quality of life. Who wants to live in a place where right in the center of it is a ticking bomb? Who can sleep at night wondering about that? We are elderly people, a lot of us here. Our children want to come back to this area. Young people we know want to come back. But who wants to come back to this? Who wants to move into Sunrise Trail or Weckamore Road with a facility like that right in the middle of it? We need to really think about sustainable development, neighborhood-friendly development, and the long-term impact of putting this thing where I learned today to talk about water, creeks running around throughout the area. If this thing implodes or explodes or catches fire, what's going to happen with the water? What's going to happen with that? Clean the air? You can't clean the air from this. We need to be more, think about our neighborhood and our future. This facility has no place, not just in College Park, it has no place anywhere near a residential area, nowhere in the United States. So if you put it here, if you put it here, it's going to destroy the neighborhood anyway, because nobody want to live here and be around it. So let's come together. Let's vote no for the people, not yes for maybe $60 million. Let's just vote no for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pinnock. The next hand that I see raised is Smart North America. If you wish to speak on this public hearing, just click the raise hand button. Smart North America, though, I do need you to identify yourself as an individual. And for our administrator, if you could please mute people who are not speaking, or if you would mute yourselves. Smart North America, can you identify yourself, please? Smart North America, it looks like you are unmuted. And not sure what the issue is, what the technical issue is there, but we're going to go ahead and move forward. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Lovelace?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, first of all, we want to thank the council and the mayor for allowing us to expose ourselves and our opinions about this. My name is Paul Lovelace, and I'm a resident, excuse me, of the Sunrise Trail subdivision. And at the risk of being redundant, I am a Delta retiree, and I have one lung because of lung cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. These facilities all over the world have caused problems. There have been fires and explosions and fumes in Hawaii, in Illinois, in Arizona, in Belgium, in Australia, and in South Korea. The frightening thing about this is that you cannot guarantee that these things will not explode. And once that happens, there is a thing called thermal runaway. In the city of Morris, Illinois, the fire department said that the fires laughed at Purple K, or what they call PKP. Out of desperation, they brought in 28 tons of cement in an effort to extinguish that particular fire. That caused the evacuation of 3 to 4,000 people. It affected the citizens. It affected the churches. It affected the schools. It affected the homes and the small businesses. We have provided the council members with a little package that we have put together, exposing even comments from the expert as far as the FEMA. And I'm sure hopefully you guys have had an opportunity to read that. And there was an independent study done by Commissioner Sandra D. Kennedy about the 2 fires in Arizona. And she said this, and I quote, "A 2 megawatt battery facility is equivalent to 1.72 tons of TNT and has the potential ability to level homes at a great distance. And that any consideration of these battery storage facilities, it would be unparalleled risk and must be regarded as recklessly dangerous and totally unacceptable." And to echo our councilwoman and Mr. Pinnock, there is a stress factor here. When you have lived this long, and then you got to worry about the possibility of explosions and leaving your home and not knowing what the potential you will find if and when you can come back. Those things present a lifestyle thing for us that is just virtually intolerable. So I'm asking you, and I realize this too, let me just simply say this. I know you guys have a fiduciary obligation to the city of College Park, and we understand that. But you also, I would imagine, realize that you've got a moral and an ethical obligation to the people in the surrounding area. We are struggling for our life. We're not fighting against the city. We're not even fighting against Next Era. We are fighting for our lives. I'm passionate about this because I want to live. I want my remaining years, I don't want to have to worry about explosions and fumes, especially close to my home. So I think you guys have enough information tonight to don't kick this down the road, to vote no on this proposed rezoning application. So I understand that the conditions of approval are there, and Councilman Clay has done, I'm sure, a thorough job of doing that, and we appreciate that. But to echo Jared Pinnock, when you got to write that many restrictions and considerations to a project, it doesn't need to happen, especially not in our community. One other thing, I understand that Georgia Power have 700 substations in the city of Georgia. If you're going to have to do this, you need to put it away from our residential area. In Melbourne, Australia, that facility is an hour's drive from Melbourne, Australia. Melbourne is very rural. In wisdom, they have placed these facilities away from residential areas because they understand there is inherent danger for that. So I thank you for your time, and I'm urging you to vote no. Consider our lives. We are your parents and your grandparents. So please consider and vote no. You have enough information already. You can't keep pushing this down the road. You can't keep padding this thing to make it palatable. It's just not. This is not a good thing. Vote no. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lovelace. Smart North America.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Ruth Page Nelson, and my company, Smart North America. I'm an Environmental Justice Academy graduate. I've worked very hard to enlighten the people. Hopefully, the council and Chief Elmore will be able to understand that the conditions that are being set forth are impossible to meet. Otherwise, these facilities would not be failing. Under vibration, these lithium-ion batteries, they fail, and their current interrupting devices, they fail without any notification by remote monitoring or any outside indication. This is near a rock quarry, and we brought this to you before. They fail under vibration, sound from the airplanes, etc. Now, there was a fire, and Mr. Lovelace mentioned it, in Australia. That fire happened upon testing of the facility. This facility, I believe, was about 200 megawatts in comparison to this one that they're proposing to put in the mostly African-American community with no notice to the community. And if it fails, it could be a severe homeland security issue of catastrophic proportions. This is underneath the Georgia integrated grid. These power lines are made out of aluminum. When it gets hot, they're gonna fail. This is part of your transcontinental grid. I've never seen anything so dangerous, even pondered for a long time. The trucks in Australia, one container burned and another one started to burn, and it took 30 fire trucks, 150 firefighters, 76 hours to bring this thing under control. That was up on testing. When I tell you that the current interrupting device fails, you can do all the remote monitoring you want. You can do all of the remote shutdown you want. It's gonna keep going on into thermal runaway, explosions, etc. I'm a master electrician. I've been out here 31 years. I've never seen a breaker fail and someone turn it off from a remote shop down in Florida. Not going to happen. That's why these things are, all the conditions I heard, that most of those about isolated to one cell, all of those things are impossible. When you vibrate this, and we have the rock quarry nearby, we have the airplanes overhead, we have the traffic right there. When you vibrate these thin layers of chemicals separating the positive and the negative, and the current interrupting device fails, there's no turning it off. You're in thermal runaway. When that facility failed in Arizona, there was one section inside one container that failed. When the firemen opened the door, flames shot out 75 feet because there was an explosion on opening the door. 2 firemen received catastrophic brain injuries, but it took them 6 months to get an expert to figure out how to get to that section in that one container to take those away to test what happened. This is technology that is experimental. Another thing of note is that this is the largest facility. This would be the largest facility in the world. But if you go down Welcome All Road like I did on Sunday, the sign is pointed in one direction. There's nothing on the back of that sign that you can even tell that this meeting is going to happen. Now, I could go on and on about that, but we have to be reasonable that the conditions are impossible to be met. I did give Chief Elmore the UL report from the fire in Arizona. One of the outcomes was basically they don't know what's going to happen. They need more large-scale testing of these facilities and even to anticipate what happens during a fire. The chemicals are all toxic, carcinogenic, and explosive in these batteries. There is no way that this should be anywhere near a residential environment. There was no legal notice for the input in the very beginning. There was a meeting that was set up when people started receiving certified mail with no return address on it, prompting me to go to the city of College Park, and they didn't have an agenda. There were no signs put up until after the first public comment meeting. I personally knocked on doors, walked around, had people helping download Zoom. This is not my position. This is the council's position, the planning commissioner's position to do the due diligence to protect our citizens. We had FOIA requests to the city of College Park saying, when was this annexed? When was this, how was this project brought about? If this project is put into service, And I heard some figures of $400 million. Even if it failed the next day, the cost to take it out of service is 9% of that. We're talking $36 million if this thing fails, and they're failing all around the world. Now, you're going to wait 30 years to get 60 million, and the one failure could cost you 36 million tomorrow. The numbers aren't adding up. We ask about what are the incentives? Who's giving the incentive? The FOIA request to the city of College Park and the FOIA request to the city of South Fulton. First of all, city of College Park was incomplete. City of South Fulton refused to send anything. When I tried to make public comment on their meeting, I was not allowed to comment. I don't see any citizens from the city of College Park wanting this for the city of College Park. So why would the mayor and the council want this if the citizens aren't even advocating for it? Again, I believe that this would be just a disaster for our community. Please vote no. Please look at the evidence of this around the world. The largest in the world, the largest facility in the world, no articles in the newspaper, no one touting it, not even signs for the people who live on the street where it'll be backing up to their doors. There's something wrong with the whole process, let alone the facility itself. Thank you, and please vote no tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, legacy birthright.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and everyone that's in this meeting. My name is Jamel McKenzie. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Hi, and I live in the city of College Park in the Link subdivision, 2447 Odell Way. And I am, I'm just kind of concerned about this project. I am concerned about the fact that we're still a few months in and that this project has not already been eliminated from even us spending time discussing it. As a municipality, we do need to find ways to continue to make our city successful, but we must also foremost consider the people in a city. There's no city without the people in the city. And then we're talking about people that are on the outside of our city that are affected by the things that our city is about to do. Now, I understand that there's quite a lot of financial incentives behind a project such as this, but we also have heard, I've been following this for the last few months, and we've heard over and over and over again from residents and persons, and now even council person Helen Willis is speaking up and saying that this is not what people want. This is not what people want. And my question that doesn't have to be answered, it's rhetorical, but we have to ask ourselves, do you want to have this in your backyard? It's easy for us who are miles and miles away from this project to say, oh, okay, this sounds great. Let's make some money for the city of College Park. But at the end of the day, this is not in our backyard. It's not in your backyard. Would you move your home to live within, a quarter of a mile of this project, 200 feet, or however close you can get? Would you really want this in your backyard? So, my question is, even in terms of as city officials, when you start looking at what you want to do as a city, you got to put yourself in the shoes of the persons that are going to be affected by this as well. And even when I heard them say, the fact that they have to put $150,000 into the South Fulton Fire Department that's nearest to this facility, that indicates that we're not truly prepared. The area is not truly prepared for a project of this site. So again, I don't know why we're still talking about this. I don't know why this wasn't squashed, nipped in the bud the last time we had this meeting. But I'm not even going to say vote your conscience. I'm going to say have a conscience and vote no. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next hand raised is Lex High.
Good evening. I'm Lexington High from Delano Road. I just wanted to speak to the conditions that Mr. Clay submitted to Next Era. I was wondering if it's typical for a council member to have to offer up this amount and this level of technical conditions for an applicant requesting rezoning. The amount of conditions submitted by Councilman Clay speak to the unpreparedness of Next Era to place such a project near a neighborhood or a residential area. Next Era has teams of engineers working on this project for probably months, if not more, maybe into the years. And how can one council member find all these holes that address the safety and potential issues in just a few weeks? And luckily, he has an electrical engineering background, or else he may not have caught these things. And if in such a short time that he did find those, who knows what larger and more detailed safety issues Next Era has failed to address. If Mr. Clay had not submitted these conditions and this got approved without them, those safety gaps would still be there. Never to be acknowledged or addressed by Next Era. And it just shows that they didn't put forth a real discerned effort for human safety. I think this is dangerous, and if permitted, will set a deadly precedent that it is okay to put this type of dangerous development in residential areas. And I'm 100% against it, and hope that we all vote no. And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next hand I see raised is Joe Stalls. If you wish to speak on this issue, go right ahead and click your raise hand button that is at the bottom of your screen. I will call on you in the order in which you have raised your hand. Mr. Stalls.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to speak about this. First of all, I'm a retired athletic director for the city of Atlanta. I'm a heart patient. I have a defibrillator and pacemaker, and my home would be less than 600 yards from this facility. I've read all the information about these facilities around the world. The one in Australia, they had to issue a toxic cloud warning for 25 miles in a 25-mile radius. A 25-mile radius around this site, we have 19 schools. College Park, Elementary, Main Street, Skyview, Brookhaven, Fellwood, Camp Creek, just to name a few. And also Camp Creek Marketplace, and more than anything else, the airport. If a fire guy started, can you imagine that smoke going to the airport or to these schools? We could not evacuate 19 schools at the same time. This is a dangerous facility to be in our neighborhood, not only to put our residents, the residents put us in danger, but putting these kids in these schools in danger. So please vote no on this. Now, we don't like the warehouses in the neighborhood, but we would surely support a warehouse. We know the city of College Park want to make some money off the property, but we would support a warehouse going on that property. You know, at least a warehouse won't kill us. So all I ask you to do is think about all the stuff that you heard and all the stuff that you read in the package that we sent, and vote no on this, because it's not about money. It's about our life. Thank y'all so much for hearing me.
Thank you, sir. The next person with their hand raised is Tracy Sellers. Should be able to go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So my family, we vote no. My mother was raised up here right off of Delano Road here in Red Oak. And I am now raising my family here in Red Oak, right off of Delano Road. And I just think it is awful that they would want to bring a company such as this, that it is bringing nothing to help the community. It is not offering jobs. It is not offering anything that we can benefit from. But you also have a place like Hickory Park Apartments that is completely filled with children. And you bring in something like this that is very harmful. You have some older people still in the community who can't even get on this Zoom because they don't have the knowledge of the computer and things of that nature. And they also have sickness, illness of all different kinds, and this is not helping us. So we, the Petway family, we vote no.
Thank you. The next raised hand I see is Atelia Hampton. I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. If anyone else wishes to speak, click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. I will acknowledge you in the order that I see you.
Well, I don't know if you can see me because I don't hear me because I don't have a microphone in front of me.
I can hear you.
Oh,
go right ahead.
Okay, I agree with everything everyone else has said, but in the conditions of approval package, pages 333 to 343 to 348, all those conditions, almost everything that's in those conditions was mentioned in the first meeting that we had. City Council meeting. They may have added a few little things, but all the conditions are basically the same conditions. All the training of the fire department and all the preventative measures that was placed in all these other cities and countries for the lithium battery storage places didn't stop the fires and the explosions from happening. So all the training of fire departments and fire personnel here in College Park and in South Fulton is not going to stop one of these fires, one of these thermal runs. Like everyone else has said, if there is a fire, it's not only going to harm our community right here, it's also going to harm College Park citizens. And you have already trying to approve some apartments or something that's right up on the corner of South Fulton and South Fulton Parkway and Roosevelt Highway for multi-use apartments or something. Do they know that this facility is going in right next to where this multi-use apartments are going, and right across the road, there's all these brand new homes that they're finishing up. Do they know that this facility is going in right across the road from where they're, from there trying to sell all these brand new homes that's right there on Feldwood? This is just a dangerous facility. There's nothing in this package that's going to stop a fire. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in regard to this consideration of rezoning of 0 Welcome All Road from BP Business Park to M1 Light Industrial Zoning District? Mr. Buckley?
I think he's still muted, Mayor.
It says that he doesn't. There we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank the City of College Park for the extraordinary process that it has engaged in reviewing and analyzing our development proposal. At the beginning of this process, at the first public hearing, there were concerns articulated by neighbors directly to you about fire safety issues and a lot of other categories that I have already discussed. The City of College Park took those comments to heart, even though those were not College Park citizens, and engaged in a robust analysis, both technical and public policy, to make sure that those comments were fully addressed, which is why we do have this comprehensive list of zoning conditions. From our perspective, we don't need any of the zoning conditions because none of our facilities has ever had one of these catastrophic fire events that have been described to you. So, from our technical perspective, these conditions are superfluous. But by the same token, since we haven't had an event like this, we had no problem agreeing to all of those conditions because at the end of the day, we don't have any real concern about fire safety or any of the other concerns that have been raised here. So again, thank you. And we remain here to answer questions, and we ask you to approve our application.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak at this public hearing to consider the rezoning of 0 Welcome All Road from BP Business Park to M1 Light Industrial Zoning District? If you wish to do so, you can go ahead and raise your hand. There is a button at the bottom of your screen that is in the shape of a hand that says raise hand underneath it. I will acknowledge you and you will have the opportunity to speak on this issue. Ms. Moore, I understand that you have some comments to be read into the record.
I do. And I will start with the first one.
Ms. Moore, let me, I apologize. When Ms. Moore is finished with her comments, if I don't see any additional hands, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. So if you wish to speak, please go ahead and raise your hand while she's in the midst of reading those comments.
Okay, the first comment is from John Upchurch, and it reads, I just want you to know that I have lived in this community for over 35 years. There have been constant lowering of our property value in our homes because you bureaucrats only don't think we deserve anything better in our neighborhoods. Everywhere you look, all you see warehouses in our neighborhood, nothing to benefit the people that live in the communities you are supposed to be looking out for. We want quality products and businesses in our mostly Black area. You don't put battery storages in place like Buckhead or any of the areas that you think of as wealthy because you know they would never go for it. We do not want neighbors with a business that might cause us harm, especially our children. Please rethink this before putting it in our backyard. John and Lorraine Upchurch, 4130 Sunrise Trail. Okay, and the next comment is from Kia Guest, and it reads, please vote no on battery storage facility. To whom it may concern, I would like to express my concerns about the environmental hazards of College Park approving a potential battery storage facility. Batteries are known for leaching chemicals in the water tablet if you begin to leak. In addition to poisoning the water table, batteries can cause fires, explosions, etc. I can only imagine how awful the air quality would be with leaking battery acid and Lord knows what else. With the airport nearby, as well as various other warehouses, College Park and surrounding cities cannot take another environmentally hazardous facility. Please vote no on the option to allow the construction of this facility. Think about the future and not the present. Kind regards, Shakia Guest. Okay, and the next comment is from Otelia Hampton, and it reads, I am against the installation of lithium battery storage facility in College Park. My name is Otelia Hampton, 4125 Jeffrey Drive, City of South Fulton, Georgia. I wish to sign up to speak virtually, attend the next meeting to give comment live. I am against Next Era Energy lithium storage facility in our residential neighborhood because it is a danger to us citizens who live in the area. The statement in Exhibit B conditions of approval packet pages 343 through 348 show that there is a chance something may go wrong and cause an emergency. Even with the training of fire departments and preventive procedures in place, there have been numerous fires at these lithium facilities, both in US and other countries. It is not safe for any residential location, including Sunrise Trail subdivision in the city of South Fulton. And I believe I have one more comment, one moment. Okay, and the last comment is from Melvin McCrary. And it reads, my name is Melvin McCrary and I reside at 4885 Brooks Drive in the Delana Road community. This proposed site is located in the entrance of the community with no outlet, one way in and one way out. I spoke out on the last meeting along with several other people and was concerned about an evacuation plan and in the event of an emergency plan for evacuation, and none was in place at that time. Question number 1, has the evacuation plan been established yet? Number 2, what is the plan and backup plan? Plan B. As I started before, the site would be located on a Georgia power line. Underneath the power line is a large gas line. Has anyone did research on the second gas line running parallel with Delano Road? Madam Mayor, I respected and appreciate that you postponed the vote to get more information, as you saw in the last meeting. 2 white council members voted for it and 2 black council members voted against it. Has it been put on the table for a buyout of the community since it is small but sentimental to the families left? They put hundreds of millions to put into the proposed facility. Next question, why wasn't the entire residents in the community notified, since it would affect the whole community in case of an incident? Finally, my family owns 5 properties in the immediate proposed site. Most deceased but paid off. Most residents in the community are elderly and don't have the knowledge about the process to text their thoughts about their views on the negative feedback of the project. Keep in mind that the proposed site is 95% or more Black residents. That's why we formed the signs and shirts not in our Black yards. Please vote against the project. Thanks, McCray. And those are all the email comments.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Does anyone else wish to speak on this issue as we consider the rezoning of 0 Welcome All Road from BP Business Park to M1 Light Industrial Zoning District? If you wish to do so, click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. I will acknowledge you and you'll have the opportunity to speak. Mr. Pinnock, go right ahead.
Can we reply?
You may speak, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay, I just want to make one comment. I think it was kind of condescending and to just a large degree an insult for next era to imply that because we don't live in College Park, they did us a favor for considering our concerns. That's not a good neighbor. That's not a good neighbor. That in itself should disqualify them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? If so, the raise hand button is at the bottom of your screen.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Stalls?
Yes. Some of the buttons are not at the bottom of the screen. They have to click on participants and then go to what their name at on the screen. Mine is like that. You have to click on participants and then go to your raise hand on the box that come up. It is not on the bottom of the screen. So that's why some people probably, can't log on.
I apologize for the, it appears one way to me. And so thank you for that. So that some folks may need to click the participants box, and then that will show everyone participating and allow you to raise your hand if you go next to your name. If there's someone who wishes to speak, please go ahead and raise your hand. You only click the raise hand button once. So okay, Mr. Lovelace, go ahead. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. We have all, I just briefly, if I may, we have included in the package that we have left for or given to the council and the mayor, the expert opinions from, excuse me, the principal investigator for a grant by FEMA. And he has said this, his name is Dr. Ofagi Izokeye. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm certainly. Unfortunately, these lithium battery cells can experience thermal runaway, which causes them to release very hot, flammable, toxic gases. Okay, the hot, flammable gases can result in an explosion or very difficult fire to extinguish. And then that's one expert. And then from the UL, the Underwriters Laboratory, Ken Boyce has stated that testing UL research into the physics of failure has revealed repeated problems with the flammable electrolyte and lithium ion batteries, and they can cause thermal runaway. And in general, he said this: in general, it is a safe technology. Unfortunately, and the meters after that, unfortunately, with these cells being installed each year, that means something is going to happen. Additionally, there was a Ben Ditch, who was a fire researcher at FM Global Mutual Insurance Provider, along with the National Fire Protection Association, has stated, lithium-ion batteries can burn. The fact that the hazard exists, it is something a lot of us have been worried about for some time. And then there's a Dr. Imre Gayuk, Director of Energy Storage Research in the Office of Electricity at the Department of Energy. He has said this, and this is very important: the regulatory framework to create market opportunities for long duration energy storage do not exist. Dr. Gayuk also stated the vast majority of codes were not developed for energy storage. This is a new, relatively new technology, and it also has to be mined as well. So once again, we ask you to vote no on this proposed rezoning, and we thank you for your time, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? And if you would go ahead and mute Mr. Lovelace back. Does anyone else wish to speak on this public hearing to consider the rezoning of 0 Welcome All Road from BP Business Park to M1 Light Industrial Zoning District? Seeing no other comments, I'll declare the public hearing closed. At this time, is there a motion?
I'd like to hear what Chief Elmore has to say. If we could ask Chief Elmore for his opinion.
All right, Chief Elmore, are you able to? There we are. Chief, how are you?
Great. How are you all doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Yes. Well, over the last few months, we've done our research and we've had various meetings, and found that around the world, with the battery storage facilities, they've had over 20 emergencies or 20 fires. And we've all spoken about the one that occurred in 2019 in Arizona, where there were 3, maybe 4 firemen that were injured. But technology they've improved the technology, but really this is it's rather new, and so they're not really certain. To sit here for me to say that we could prevent it, I cannot tell you that. From what I've observed, they've had incidents, and incidents will occur with these lithium-ion batteries. If it's left up to me, the ones that I've seen, they were all developed or constructed in rural areas, not in residential areas. You have to look out, for the residents that's close around that facility.
As far as training, how much training would be required?
Well, like I said, this is it's rather new, and speaking with chiefs around the country, yeah, it's going to take some training because, like I said, it's rather new. and it's going to take some training between all the surrounding departments. I did hear one lady mention, I think it was in Australia, where they were at one fire, there were over 50 fire trucks and over 150 firefighters on scene, and it took them about 4 days to extinguish the fire. So and you asked about training. It's going to take a lot of training. It's not going to be 1 week's training or 2 weeks of training. And as talking to the chief at Surprise, Arizona, where the incident occurred, he said if they had to do it all over again, they would just stand back and just let it burn.
As far as equipment, how much equipment would be required? As far as uniforms, fire suppression equipment for the trucks, new trucks or different types of trucks, what would be required? Do you have any ideas?
Right off the top of my head, right now we have approximately 15 people per shift per day. And we have 3 engines and maybe 2 rescue units. We'll probably need an additional, I would say, 2 trucks and additional personnel. You're looking at 8 to 12 people. And that's not including the gear and the uniforms.
Any other questions for Chief Elmore or anyone else on staff? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion?
Mayor, can I make a couple comments before I make a motion?
You may.
I don't think this decision is going to be decided based on pure technical facts or even economics. I think it's going to be largely decided based on emotion and concern of the unknown. I remember one of the things I think Mr. Paul Lovelace sent was talking about the equivalent tons of TNT that were present in the energy storage of this. Well, if you take an SUV with a 35-gallon tank, that's sufficient energy in the gasoline, at least from the look that I did, that'd be equal to a kiloton of TNT. Now, there's no way that it's going to explode because you have to have all that liquid turned into vapor, and that vapor has to be mixed with the right amount of oxygen in order to have an explosion that would render the same thing that a ton of TNT would render. So it's not just how much energy is stored in it, it's how fast it can be released. I'm the technical guy on council. I understand this stuff largely. I can't expect people who don't have a technical background to understand all that. And I can understand why people are worried. I think one of the most salient comments were made by, I can't remember who made them, but the fact that you're worried. And even if you were worried about something that isn't something that should be worried about, it's still going to have an impact on you. And I thought that was a really good comment. Personally, I think we're going to revisit that land. That land is not going to remain trees. The city can't afford it. We have an ethical obligation. I've said this to Mr. Lovelace on several occasions. I believe we have an ethical obligation to the people that live around there And I think we have a fiduciary obligation to the people who elected us in College Park. And we have to balance those. And just because people don't want something, well, we've got a whole bunch of citizens in College Park that don't want to pay $4 million extra in taxes, for example. So it's not a question of what's what, it's a question of what was there. And I think what I told Mr. Lovelace, and he and I have had a couple conversations, I've even sent them a copy that I extracted off the web of all the conditions, because I wanted them to be able to fully understand. I know there have been complaints about adequate notice and so forth. And I want to make sure that, you know, the information is available for what we've done. I believe that this is a facility that will have cells are going to fail. I guarantee it. I guarantee that cells will fail. I've got a lithium-ion battery in my basement, nothing the size of anything here. I've got two of them, one in each of my cars. And I didn't check the energy equivalent on them, but I'm sure it's pretty high. So this is not a purely technical decision. I think it would be preferable if I were to live next to it, if I had to take a choice between having this facility and having a truck hub with tractor trailers coming in and out 24 hours a day, I think I'd rather have this facility. I was worried at the beginning about noise. And you've got a lot of airport noise because you're right under the flight path at 240 degrees. But the residents, and rightly so, are worried about the chemical hazards and the chemistry of the batteries and so forth. So I think if I had a choice, and had a choice between living next to this and living next to a truck hub, I would prefer this. Can I guarantee that we're not going to have an accident? We've tried to put in, at least I've tried to make sure that was put in multiple lines of defense. But an airplane could crash on your house right there. You're right under the flight path. Not that that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. So where I am on this issue, I think we can render it safe. I think that I don't think you're going to believe that. And I think the economic penalty on Next Era is such that they want to make it safe. And furthermore, they've stated, and I can't prove that, I have to take their word for it, that they've not had any kind of a fire of what we're talking about. I guarantee you that they're going to have individual cells fail. That's going to happen. So I just wanted to lay it out where I'm coming from. I can't speak for the other members of council. I wouldn't vote for it myself if I felt it wasn't safe. And in fact, we voted at the previous council meeting, as somebody mentioned, we voted to put a multifamily area 300 feet from this facility. So in actuality, it won't just be South Fulton citizens that are exposed to it. It will be College Park citizens. And we made that decision knowing that this was a possibility in that area. Well, that's the only comment I want to make. I think I've told a lot of people, I don't know how I'm going to vote when this comes up, but that's how I see the picture right now. And I guarantee, at least for my vote, that we will use that land. Now, I'm only one vote, so I can't make it happen. But I would not be opposed to putting a truck hub there because we need to use that land to its highest usage. from a revenue standpoint for the city. It is not residential area, even though it used to be farms. And so that would make the choice easier for me. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for taking so long.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Does anyone else wish to speak?
I would like to make a motion to deny.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. Is there any comment or questions?
I have a question for the city attorney. Once an item has been voted on, we have had a policy. I don't know how required it is that it can't be brought up again in another year, within a year. So in the past, a motion to deny was brought up and was defeated. I would believe, based on that policy, that a second motion to deny cannot be brought up within a year.
Mr. Denmark?
Yes, a motion to deny, it wouldn't reflect the motion itself, would reflect the matter being considered by the council. So if the matter comes up and there's action taken on it, obviously it's approved. I guess that's your point, because it's approved, then why would it come back? But in terms of a denial or matter coming back, yes, we have had that policy in terms of not coming back again within 6 months.
So my question is simple. Is Councilman Taylor's motion valid or not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, his motion to deny is certainly valid. I'm not aware. Are you
on this? It's on the same subject that we had the motion to deny voted on 2 council meetings ago. So it's the same subject. It's the same motion. Is it valid to bring it up?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it would be valid to bring it up again. I don't understand why, if it were denied the last time, why it would be present on the agenda this evening, if that were the consideration or the concern. So I thought there was some reason why it was not voted on the merits, and we brought it back for some other reason. I was not aware that it was a definitive motion to deny, because then that would beg the question as to its procedural posture on the agenda this evening.
Councilman Clay, may I interject?
Sure.
I believe this is when we were in person in August. I believe Councilman Taylor did make a motion to deny this rezoning request, and that motion was defeated. So I think Councilman Clay's question is making that same motion to deny the rezoning at this juncture. Am I correct, Councilman Clay? Is this
absolutely
okay?
Then what is it on the agenda to do tonight?
Well, hold on one second. Let Mr. Denmark answer the question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, from my perspective, if we have considered the matter, that's irrespective of the outcome of the consideration. If it did not receive an affirmative vote, then it calls into question whether or not it should be on the agenda at all. And it's not, because the prohibition is on the council considering a matter, not on one particular vote to approve or vote to deny. As I understood the prohibition, it was on the council considering a matter within a certain time frame. And if we've already considered the matter, and then that begs the question of why it's on the agenda at all this evening. And I understand that it was a motion to deny, and that motion didn't carry. And so that might be a distinction that we're attempting to draw, but I don't see that that's a distinction that really matters. I think that if we've considered it, we've considered it. And if we're going to say that the denial motion would be improper, then any motion would be improper.
All right, let me put it more simply. At a previous council meeting, we voted to kill. The vote came with, there was a vote to kill the rezoning. not to do it, period. Take it off the books, forget about it, never come back again. That vote failed by a vote of 3-2 with the mayor voting. We then had a second motion. That motion was made to not to do the project, but rather to defer discussion on the project, defer the decision whether to do the project or not, because the decision not to do the project failed. So do we want to do the project? That decision, we agreed, would be passed down until we got more information. We now have gotten more information, and the decision that is relevant at this point is whether to do the project, not whether to not do the project. Does that help?
Yeah, I understand it. Trust me, I follow precisely what it is that you're saying. And my response is the same, that if there's going to be a prohibition on council taking action, it would be on any consideration, approve or deny, if we're going to have a prohibition. But even though there has been a previous vote to deny, and that failed 3-2 with the mayor voting, I do not believe that that is any more out of order than a motion to approve would be at this point, in as much as the matter has been previously considered. The matter has been previously considered.
Okay, so the simple answer is Councilman Taylor's motion is valid, Councilman Gay's second is valid, and now we're up for the vote. Is that correct? Okay, good. That's all I wanted to know.
Councilman Gay?
Yes, he just answered my question.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Hearing none. The motion to deny the rezoning request. All in favor to deny the rezoning request. Do you understand? All those in favor of a denial. So it's Councilman Gay, Councilman Taylor?
To deny it, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Taylor?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All those opposed for a denial?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay. So we are at a tie. I'm in favor of a denial.
Okay, that's it.
You're done. Item 8A, consideration of an action on a request for approval of professional service agreement between the City of College Park and Pond and Company to provide supplemental program management for building and inspection services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In lieu of our building inspector resigning, we would like to hire a professional service company, Pond and Company, to do our inspections until there is a decision made about what to do about that position.
Any questions for Ms. Miller?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, Councilman Gay, go right ahead.
I think it would be appropriate to put out a job offer to fill the position contemporaneously with this motion, because I don't think that Pond should completely take over our that process. From what I've seen, it's just too convoluted.
I happen to, depending on the answers to my questions, I'm probably going to agree with Councilman Gay, which is why when I ask the questions.
Okay. Go right ahead.
So right now we have a building inspector in-house who is no longer going to be in-house, and we're trying to replace him with Pond. But Pond is, by reading their contract, and I asked some questions about this, it sounded like they're supposed to be coming in for special inspections. So how about a non-special inspection like Oscar would have performed? I want to, I don't know, I want to take some walls out in my wife's studio. And so I've got a contractor and he has to get a permit. And so is Pond going to be the one then that will be called in to get the inspection?
Yes, sir. And I also have BJ with Pond on the call. And this is a temporary situation because the building inspector's last day was October 8th. So we do need to do something in the meantime so that we don't let jobs lapse.
Okay. So is the intent, as Councilman Gay was implying, is the intent to get an in-house, to recruit a new in-house building inspector that can handle the more or less day-to-day things that Oscar handled, and then rely on Pond for overflow? Oscar can't, the new person can't handle everything due to time limits. We've got a lot going on in the city. Or maybe very specialized areas that Oscar might have been familiar with, but that the person that would replace him might not be. And okay, so we use Pond for that. Is that where we're going with this or what?
Well, currently we're already using subcontractors for apartments, and Pond would replace any kind of commercial inspections or any home improvement inspections. That's what they would fill in. Now, at the direction of council, I can either, it was my understanding, I was waiting for the new city manager to be able to make the decision and to hire someone. But at council's discretion, we can post the position.
Okay.
For me, I go ahead, sir.
Hold on one second. Okay. Councilman Allen, go right ahead.
Who would do the inspections until the job was filled after it was posted?
It would be Pond. They're only doing the job until we can decide what the direction to go. This is not a permanent a permanent change. This is in the meantime until there's some direction regarding a building inspector.
I would like for us to put out the job posting for the building inspector immediately and allow Pond to work until that position is filled.
And I would agree with that.
I would too.
All right.
And that's what we'll do. But in the meantime,
okay, so do we have to have anything to approve? We're using Pond now. Do you need any approval to?
Well, we still need to do, even if it's a temporary contract with Pond, we still need to approve some type of agreement with them. Right now, we have them working on an as-needed basis, but we don't have any type of agreement signed.
Okay. Can I make a motion and say that we will use this agreement as necessarily modified or what have you? It sounded to me like this is a perfectly good agreement that you can use to augment an internal inspector.
And as I said, BJ is on the phone from Pond if you all would like to ask any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Martin? Okay, hearing none.
No.
Okay, all right. Did Councilman Clay, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve this contract with Pond to the extent that is adequate in the context of having us eventually having an internal building inspector. And so if we can use it as is, great. It sounds like we can use it as is, at least until we get the building inspector. So that's my motion. Basically approve it, I guess, what we have right now before us, but with the intent of getting a building inspector.
I second it with the intent that we post the building inspection now.
Right. Thank you.
All right. So there's a motion. There's a second.
Can I make a comment? This is BJ Marlowe Pond.
Mr. Martin, no.
Okay.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. And that it passes unanimously. Item 8B, consideration of an action on a request for approval of amendment to the arena license agreement with Skyhawks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Due to the coronavirus last year, the Skyhawks schedule was canceled. So we would like to extend their contract one more year with the interruption of last year, due to the interruption of last year.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Any questions for Ms. Cole?
No, I think it's great. I'm glad that we pick up another year.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 8C, consideration of an action on a supplemental lease agreement number 51 between the City of College Park and the United States Government Services Administration for the installation of the ATS switch at the Federal Aviation Administration headquarters, located at 1701 Columbia Avenue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The request is to purchase and install an ATS switch, which is a component of the generator currently located at the FAA building. I do need to make an announcement of correction on the agenda item. The agenda item states that the cost is $124,169.74. However, the cost is actually $139,385.50, which is reflected on the agreement. And in the agreement, the FAA will pay for the cost to purchase and install the ATS switch. However, the maintenance and repair is the city will be responsible for the maintenance and repair. But in the future, if the item needs to be replaced again, the FAA will pay for the replacement.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd Bradley. Any other questions for her? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. We have no old business. We have no new business. City Attorney's report.
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of Mayor and Council. We'll go backwards. Councilman Gay.
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilman Allen.
I just would like to thank all the department heads for what they've done over the past really 2 years, a year and 3/4 that I've been here. They all have just worked diligently. They've all saved money. They've all cut costs whenever they could, because we do need that. I just want to give them a big shout out and thanks to every single one of them for what they do every single day, because their leadership makes this city run. The other thing, it's voting time, so you can get out and vote. You can get out and vote early, so please get out and vote.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Councilman Taylor.
I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilman Clay.
Yes, I'd like to echo what Councilman Allen said about voting. And I'd also like to point out that although there is no direct city issue for people who reside in Ward 1 and Ward 3 this time, because we're not up for election, there are still two important items on the agenda for the T-SPLOST, which we have used. If you've seen signs around the city about this project or that project being funded by Transportation SPLOST, that's listed. Also, there's the Fulton County continuation of their tax to improve the schools. And that is not, the Fulton County school is not a fixed 5-year amount like the T-SPLOST is. The Fulton County one is until they raise such amount of money up to a period of 5 years. And that information is on my website. If you didn't understand it, just go to clayOnCouncil.com and go to the notices page and you'll see a blurb on that. And I also explained it in my email. Somebody approached me the other day and I thought it was a really good idea because I walk a lot and we don't have any kind of ordinance, I don't believe, about cleaning up after your pet. and I will just throw that out for consideration to the council. Would we want to have something like that? Because there seem to be an increasing number of pets and or increasingly inconsiderate pet owners that seem to not mind about their pet leaving a present on the sidewalk. So could we look into that, city manager? If the council is okay with it, speak now or forever hold your peace. Next item, I had a really good discussion today with Tasha and the chief, and we talked about the and Ada. We talked about parking plan for Walker. I've gotten lots of complaints from Walker. I've gotten complaints from Rugby. One of the favorite things for people visiting Main Street is parking in front of a fire hydrant in front of one of my constituents' home. And they just sit there for hours. And anyhow, we had a really good discussion on the parking plan for Walker. We're going to try to get the group of citizens that are immediately impacted by that on a meeting, hopefully this week, if Tasha can get it set up. And I'm looking forward to getting that moving. What we're going to do is we're going to be painting some curbs yellow. We're going to be putting up some no parking signs there so people can get their mail and so that people can get in and out of their driveway without being totally blocked. So that was a good accomplishment. And I'm looking forward to getting that done. There were a ton of parking violations around Badgett Field this weekend, Saturday, homecoming day. I got to believe the police were overwhelmed. I don't know what we do about it, but we've got parking problems all over, guys. And we have got to move to address that more effectively. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover.
All right. Thank you, sir. So for those of you who may not know, tomorrow is the second day of free breast cancer screenings at the College Park Regional Health Center at 1920 John Wesley Avenue in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so those seeking screenings should be at least 40 years old. If you haven't had a mammogram in at least a calendar year, insurance is not required to participate. If you want more information, you can call 404-612-1649. So I would encourage everyone, since it's right in our neighborhood, 1920 John Wesley Avenue, go to the health center if you've not had a screening within the last year and take advantage of this opportunity that Fulton County is putting on. I want to thank everyone who showed up for an opportunity to sit down to talk one-on-one last week. It was nothing but a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to talking with more folks on October 25th. We have a few slots left, so feel free to call City Hall to make an appointment. We talked earlier in the meeting about applications for rental assistance, and Ms. Floyd Bradley did update me. The Department of Community Affairs is accepting applications as well, and so we will put that link on our website to make sure that people have all the access available for all the resources that are out there. And lastly, the College Park Main Street Association is having a wine stroll on the 21st. You can still get your tickets. You can get more information on our website, collegeparkga.com. So that's all I have. I think we need to approve some executive session minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that I heard all four of you. That is unanimous. That's all we have this evening. We appreciate everybody. See you back in November. We are adjourned at 9:50. Take care.
Good night, all.
Night.